My first time online was doing eBay. This was like back in the late 90s. Basically, I was selling watches for a guy in New York. I heard about eBay, and so I was like, hey man, let's set up a distribution channel on eBay. So we set it up, and then all of a sudden, the business started to take off. And we wound up becoming one of the fastest power sellers ever on eBay. If you're planning to be in this industry, it's about being consistent. Finding things that you really know well, going super deep with them before going wide, and then just remaining consistent.
I think a lot of people get in this industry and they're always looking to take, right?
There's a lot of takers.
Too many takers, but those are the people that they might have some short-term success, but they're not going to weather the storm.
They come into the industry, they see affiliates making money, and they're like, man, I want what that guy has. I never thought about it from that perspective. I like nice things as well, but for me, it was always building the company first and taking care of my team as opposed to taking care of myself.
LFG fam, we just shot a fucking banger right now. I can't wait till you hear this shit. It's like next level. No one's talking about this. Shout out to our sponsors, because without them, this shit wouldn't be possible. Shout out to Ringba. Shout out to Adam Young, the paper call revolution. There's big money in paper call, whether you're someone who's a novice looking to get into it, whether you're someone who's already doing it, putting up big numbers. Let's fucking do this, guys. Get the fucking book on Amazon. We're going to drop a link here. Take your shit to the next level. Let's fucking go. Welcome to another episode of the LFG Let's Fucking Go show. We are in a special location right now. It feels like I'm taking you out for a date. And behind us, I got all these fucking, we got hearts, we got flowers for Valentine's Day. They close off the section of Ralph's, one of the best pizzerias in New Jersey here. And we're here with my man, Jordan Rolband. He is the CEO and co-founder of DFO Performance. He is an OG in the industry, been doing this shit for a long time. So I'm super excited to have him on the show here. And we're gonna have some great pizza. We're gonna talk about some good industry shit. And before we go into it, let's give a shout out to Ringba, who's sponsoring our show. Ringba's got the best call tracking performance software out there. So shout out to Ringba, Adam Young, Harrison over there. Great to have you in the show, my man.
Oh, David, what's up, man?
I'm excited because, bro, you know I moved to Florida, right? I haven't had good pizza. I was Super Bowl yesterday. Sorry for the 49ers losing. Good fucking game, though.
Happens.
Great game. They'll be back. They'll be back.
That's right.
But listen, I like fucking pizza. I think Jordan likes pizza more than me. So I can't wait to be doing this with him, and I can't wait to eat some good fucking pizza. So let's get into it, man.
You are lucky because, as you mentioned, we are in Ralph's, Nutley, New Jersey. Ralph's has been here for 60 plus years. It's funny because as much as I like pizza, I hadn't been here until a few years ago. One of my buddies put me on. I started coming here, and the first time I came here, I was like, wow, this place is legit. Obviously, Portnoy gave it a, I mentioned them. He gave it an 8.9, which is a pretty high score for him.
Very high.
I'd say that's probably a pretty accurate score for Ralph's. They make a nice thin pie here. They also make a very nice square pie. So you'll see, they bring out the pizza soon. You'll see. It is, it's interesting because we are two guys in here, and it is decorated for Valentine's Day. So it feels a little fun. But it's cool. I mean, they set us up here in the back room. Very nice of them to do that, to let us do the show. And yeah, man, I mean, it's good to sit here with you. And it's nice to have you back in Jersey.
Yeah,
I was in Florida last week.
Yeah, I know we saw each other in Florida, had a good meal with your family. That was great, man. And we've been seeing a lot of each other recently, We see each other all over the world. So it's great to be back home in our neck of the woods.
Man, the interesting thing between you and I, one is we're a similar age.
Yeah.
Two is we happen to be from the same exact place, the same town in New Jersey, which is really random.
Shout out to Elizabeth.
And then you told me you moved to Florida, and you literally live a block away from where I am in Florida. So for some reason, the world wanted us to connect with one another.
Absolutely. It's awesome. So first and foremost, I mean, a lot of people in the industry know who you are. You've been doing this for a long time, but let's talk about, give a little background to the people who don't know who you are. How'd you get into the game? Like, tell us the whole history.
Yeah, man. I mean, so my first time online was doing eBay. This was like back in the late 90s. And I've told this story before, but basically I was selling watches for a guy in New York. And he was doing all like antique flea markets and basically selling, I wouldn't say retail because he was set up in the Diamond District, so on 47th Street. And I was working for him. And I was going to auctions and buying watches. And so I heard about eBay, and so I was like, hey man, let's set up a distribution channel on eBay. So we set it up. Started off very slow. We were really like, we were going to shut it down.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the business started to take off. And we weren't putting like high-end watches on there. So these weren't like selling Rolexes, but we were doing like Casios, Timex. At that time, Tag Heuer and Movados were very popular. So we were doing like Tag Heuer and Movado. And we wound up becoming one of the fastest power sellers ever on eBay. And so I thought I had this amazing business and I was going to be like a billionaire by figuring out how to conquer eBay. And the guy suddenly passed away. And when he passed away, basically all of his trade secret died with him.
Wow.
So I had no connection and no way to get the
How
watches
old were you
again.
at the time?
Oh man, I was like early 20s, right? And so when he died, the business died for me. So I went to work for a guy in the Diamond District after all this happened, thinking that I would graduate college at some point shortly thereafter, and then basically go to gemological school, study diamonds, become a watchmaker. And after 6 months of working with the guy was like, look, you're a super nice guy, but this is not work that's cut out for you. You don't have great eyes. You don't have great hands. Go find something else to do. So I was kind of heartbroken because I had my mindset on like basically being in this business. So I had to figure out what else to do. And so I spent the next few years kind of just like wandering about. Buddy of mine moved down to Florida, presented me with an opportunity. I said, sure, why not? I'll head down there with you. Moved down to Florida. A year later, I found myself generating leads for the mortgage industry and the insurance industry. I was originally buying data. So when we first started, I was like the guy in charge of buying data.
Like age data or what kind of data?
Like data that you sell now.
Yeah, okay.
But I knew nothing about data. So I was like calling up all these marketing companies and trying to buy data. A bunch of them burned us on the data. Some of the data was like really bad, but it gave me a good learning experience. And then I started messing around on Google one night and sort of figured out that I could actually generate leads very cheaply for our company, online buying Google ads. And that was like kind of my first foray into like internet marketing. And this was 2005, 2006-ish, okay? Right at sort of the peak of the market, the mortgage market run up, okay? And so I was generating leads. And the problem I had is that I couldn't figure out how to scale, right? So like I could generate a bunch of leads for our call center that we had in Florida for mortgages. I was doing some for insurance. But I was like, man, I could probably make money if I could figure out how to sell these to all these other mortgage brokers and insurance agents that are down here. How do I do that? So I started going on all the forums and reading, and that led me down the dark rabbit hole of affiliate marketing. And so, I don't know, probably about 2 years later, after like just sort of figuring everything out and putting all the pieces together, I had set up an offer and like went live with my first official offer on one of the affiliate networks. I don't know, this is probably early 2008. And so we were in market. Then and then 2008 happened. And so the whole market crashed. And so I thought that the lead gen business was going to die when the financial markets crashed. And what I realized is that being in the lead gen industry and the position we were in, it's kind of a really unique place to be, because no matter whatever was happening around us, people always needed leads. And so mortgage and insurance leads turned into loan modification and debt settlement leads, which eventually led back into mortgage leads a few years later when the market started to correct.
Yep.
And so there was always a place for it. So I built up a company, exited that company in 2011. Right, so now I'm fast forwarding, and I left Florida. I came back up to Jersey, exited that company, went to work at an agency in New York, right, for a short period of time just to sort of figure out what my next play was going to be. And a year and a half later, wound up starting DFO Performance. And that was a long time ago. That was, 11 and a half years ago now.
Wow.
And so it's been an interesting adventure since then.
Yeah, and I love that. I've been in this game since 2015, in the lead gen side, right? I've been in call center since 2005, but I feel like I've been doing this. I feel like each year is like dog years, right? So I've been doing this, 8 years? I feel like that's like 56 years old. You've been doing this how long? Like fucking over 20 years, man.
It is definitely, somewhere around there, right? I mean, between like playing around with data and then obviously working on buying media as kind of like an internal media buyer, but then also as an affiliate. Yeah, I mean, a lot of time spent playing around on the internet, for sure.
So you've seen a lot of people come and go, I imagine, in the industry, right? And what would you say is, I mean, for the people like you've been able to, I think one thing, you've been able to pivot, right? You mentioned how your mortgage was hot, then it went to hell, then it turned to loan mods and the debt, then mortgage came back.
And now that we know mortgage has been all over the place because of the rates. I mean, I think pivoting is huge, right? I mean, so what's the commonality of the people that have been able to stick, that weather the storm? What would you say is the common traits and the ones that haven't?
David, like the way that I see it is this, right? I think in this industry, you certainly have to find your place and like the main area that you're going to focus your efforts and attention. And I can see from like early in my career where I was sort of like bouncing around, right? I gave you like the very short, compacted story, but the reality is like we bounced around a lot, right? Me, the people I was working with, because at some point I had built up a team. And I'd say one is creating consistency for yourself. So today and over the last 11, 12 years, my primary business has been focused on e-commerce, right? That's where I live today. And so if I look at the breakdown of where I am, about 90% of my business is e-commerce related. The other 10% is on the lead gen side. But I spend a lot of my time still in e-com, right? And I will continue to do so, right? I have no desire at this point to say, hey, I'm going to totally pivot out of e-commerce and only focus on lead generation. And for a number of different reasons. I mean, one, e-commerce will remain in the future, right? People are always going to buy things online. So I don't see that dying anytime soon. Two is I just know the space so well now that there's no reason that I believe that it isn't an opportunity, and there is an opportunity to grow. But it's all dictated based on markets. Now, to answer your question, I have seen a lot of people go. And, you see a lot of people come and go for lots of different reasons, right? Sometimes it's just they're not really that dedicated to whatever it is that they're doing. A lot of people come into the affiliate space, they expect easy money or easy success. They have those like really quick initial wins, but then they can't replicate that success. And so they fall out and do something else. A lot of guys I've seen over the years, sadly, is, they get so caught up and so self-absorbed in that like initial success. And they're spending all their money buying the fancy cars and traveling around the world and jewelry and blah, 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 and wasting all their money. And then when there are downtimes, because there are always downtimes in every industry, they're not prepared for that and they kind of just disappear. So I think one is, if you're planning to be in this industry, it's about being consistent, right? Remaining consistent, finding things that you really know well, going super deep with them before going wide, having a great understanding of them, and then just remaining consistent.
Yeah, I love that advice because there's so much shiny object syndrome in our industry, right? I think we all fall victim to that here and there, right? There's always some new offer and everyone gravitates towards it, jumps in it. I think you're seeing it right now with ACA, right? Everyone, their mother's in on it. And so like, it has a shelf life, right? But if you can find a focus, for me, that was solar back in 2015. For a while, I mean, I know we're top 5 in the country in solar for a good period of time. Now solar's gone the other way, but good thing that we started to rinse and repeat into other verticals like debt and Medicare and such things of that nature. So that's helped us along the line. But I did
all lead gen, right? So like all lead gen.
All lead gen, yeah. We never did e-com, it's all lead gen.
And all like playing around with consumer information, right? And essentially solar could lead into mortgages, could lead into insurance.
Home improvement.
Because they all sort of fit within the same kind of categories or verticals.
Exactly.
Right? Which is smart, right? And that's what I'm saying by being consistent. It doesn't just, you don't have to say to yourself, hey, we're only going to do mortgage and nothing else.
Yeah.
Because I think that would be foolish because of, things change within the economy.
Yeah.
But staying consistent to the verticals you're in. You're not like, hey, last week we were doing solar and then next week we're going to start doing like zip submits or pin submits or Nutra in 2 weeks from now, right? Staying consistent with what you do, especially as you're building your company. Once you have resources and expertise and you can grow your business, then of course you can hire people that can come in as experts in each particular vertical you may want to move into. But until you get to that point, stay focused and just go really deep.
I love that. And let's talk about that because obviously you probably hired hundreds of people in your career, I imagine, right? And I think in our industry, it's hard to get. I know a lot of people, maybe they're 3, 4, or one-man shops, right, is what it is, and they want to get to that level. But there's a lot of headaches with that scaling, right? So how were you able to do that successfully? And I don't know if it's a work in progress, right? So what would be your advice to someone that's maybe got 3 people on their team, 5, and they're trying to get to that next level?
Sacrifice.
Yeah.
So again, speaking of those same people, right? Instead of going out and treating myself to things, right? Because this is a lot of people get enamored by this business, right? They come into the industry, they see affiliates making money, and they're like, man, I want what that guy has.
Yeah.
I never thought about it from that perspective. I like nice things as well, but for me, it was always building the company first and taking care of my team as opposed to taking care of myself. right? And so making those sacrifices. And there's definitely a lot of risk and reward in that, right? Because the risk is you could build up this huge team and the company never actually comes to like true fruition. And now you've sacrificed your own personal gain because you've, instead of taking from the company, you've paid employees and you've paid, you know, to have benefits and paid for better offices and paid to really build a team and a culture as opposed to just running a cash flow business, which is what many people, again, when they come in, they look at that and they're like, affiliates, oh, this affiliate I know, he's driving a nice Lamborghini or this or that. Hard to build a business though if you're just spending the money on things, right? As opposed to building out resources and thinking about your team. From there, it's really a question of like proper hiring and, you know, understanding the goals of the organization and what you really wish to accomplish 1 year, 3 year, 5 years down the line. And if you never have a real true vision on what that looks like, then it becomes very hard to build any kind of true organization. And obviously things do change along the way. Like you're always gonna run into things. The economy could change, your team could change. You could lose really good people that may then shift your organization. In our case, we were one of the first companies doing what I call performance-based e-commerce, right? There wasn't many doing it. There was maybe one other company at the time. If I look at the landscape of that industry now, right, that we sort of started, there's 20 people doing it now. Half of them worked for me at one point, right? And they came, they learned, and then they were like, well, I can go do this. And on one hand, that's kind of like a shitty feeling. But on the other hand, it's like, well, hey, look how many people we've put on, right? And whether it comes back to us in the form of being able to do business with them, or you just know that you've been able to set those trends, it gives you that confidence to keep going and building.
Yeah. And that's amazing because I think in our industry, there's a lot of people that it's almost like a scarcity mindset. They want to keep everything close to the vest is what it is, right? And then when someone leaves, I'm like, oh, this fucking guy left me. You hear like this bullshit talk, but to me, it's going to happen, right? If someone's got huge potential, you're not going to be able to hold them back. And you hope that what will happen is you help them to remember that. But do you feel like it's benefit you long-term? I mean, I would imagine it has, right?
I mean, look, it can hurt and it can benefit you.
Yeah.
And I think that really just depends on the type of people that you hire, right? And I've hired some bad people along the way that, you know, instead of like thanking me for putting them on and creating opportunity, they've tried to fuck me, right? And that happens. I guess the way that I look at it is if you have more people that give back than try to take, then you're in a pretty good position.
Absolutely. Wow, you're just spitting fucking gems right here, man. This is nice. And I think that, again, I started my company in 2015, right? And I never expected us to grow the way we grew. It was like a side hustle to just turn into something, just snowballed and evolved, right?
And that's generally how it happens.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And look, man, I've seen you, like I've known you for, I think about 3 years now.
Yeah.
And I've seen you at every show. Yeah. I know that you're a hustler. You obviously take every opportunity to get on stage and like drop knowledge in front of people. And in our industry, people love that kind of thing, right? And as long as you're giving good information and providing knowledge and some benefit, then again, the good people reciprocate that back to you, right? And that's how you've been able to build your business.
Yep. And you weather the storm, right? When things, you get to pivot accordingly. You see if someone's been successful doing something and they pivot something somewhere else, there's a higher chance of that working, right? Higher probability of that working. So I think it's a gift that keeps on giving, I think. And you're great at that too.
Look, man, when I met you, like we were doing nothing in lead gen, right? Like I was totally e-commerce. I remember having a conversation with you and I said to you, like, I was like, you know, I'm sort of thinking about it. And you were like, hey man, if you ever have any questions or like want to jump back in, like hit me up. I'm happy to have a conversation with you. And I remember seeing you a year later and I was like, yeah, I'm starting to play around a little bit. And you were like, if you need anything, let me know. Yeah. And while you and I haven't made a ton of money together per se, you have given me some really good advice in terms of what I should be doing to like get back into the lead gen space. And I'd say, look, if I look at like the last year, where we've really been playing in lead gen now, because it's been about a solid year where I've taken it very serious. Some of the advice that you've given me has worked out really well for us, right? The way in which we look at our data, obviously the types of offers that we're running, the verticals that we're in, it's been great. Yeah. And I certainly thank you for that. And you know, like if there's anything I can give back to you, like I'd be happy to do so.
That means a lot to me. And that's really what it comes down to, is that I think a lot of people get in this industry and they're always looking to take, right?
There's a lot of takers.
Too many takers. But those are the people that they might have some short-term success, but they're not going to weather the storm. They're not going to be around for a long term. Whereas the people that are willing to give, they're the ones, yeah, we might get fucked here and there. It's happened to me, it's happened to you, but we're going to be the ones that weather the storm. And we're going to be able to attract the people that are going to give back to us at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you do good business and you're innovative and you have ideas that you can execute on, you generally have a pretty good chance of having success, and not just success, but like sustainable success, right? And I mean, if you look at businesses, it's really, can you build a business that's going to be here for 10 years or more? Because once you get past like that 10-year mark, there's a very high probability that you will have long-term sustained success.
Just made me think. I think I'm in my 8th year, so I'm almost there, man.
So you've got 2 more years to like
2 more years, man. Here we gotta go.
All right, we've established ourselves, right? I mean, we hit that period, and look, man, there's been, and I'm very honest about it. Like, there's been ups and downs. You know, we've had some huge years, and we've had some years where I'm like, you know, could have been better. Like, where did we fall short? And you know, I think that's when again looking at e-commerce, because with COVID, obviously, we were able to take advantage of a massive run-up in the marketplace. But with that run-up meant we had to hire a lot of people and really scale our business. And there's consequences to doing that, especially when you're not prepared and you don't have proper SOPs in order to do so. So we also felt that downside. And that's sort of what made me start to think about the idea of like, you know what, e-commerce is great and we always want to be here, but we certainly need to add some diversity, because when you do have a big team of people, you need revenue and profit, right? Correct. Otherwise, you can't keep those people employed.
Let's talk about that, because that's an experience that I had myself, right? I mean, when you hit your peak in terms of employees, what was your head count at the time?
I think at the beginning of 2021 was probably our biggest, and we were somewhere in like the 420 to 440 range.
Wow.
Right, and that's starting the business in 2013 with 4.
Wow.
So that's like pretty significant scale,
so
right?
100 times from 4 to 420. I mean, we went from like freaking 3 to 60-ish, and I was like, the hell, right? I mean, I can't imagine going from 3 to 60 to 400. It just happens, I guess.
You know, and look, some of those people are call center people and, you know, people that work in warehouses, et cetera. So they're not like, you know, VP level or executives, but they're still people that you're employing and that you're responsible for.
Yeah.
And when things are good, they all love you. They love you. You're the best company in the world. And when they're not, they hate you. And you're the worst company in the world. And you have the worst leadership in the world. And everything's bad about what you're doing, right? And so there's the give and take of that, the good and bad.
Yeah, and I've seen that. What happens is when the revenue's coming in, things are looking good.
Yeah,
but you don't realize,
happy.
there's stupid stuff going on that you're kind of like, you know it's there, but you don't worry about it. But when revenue goes the other way, you're like, what the hell? Then you got to start laying off. Then it's not fun anymore. It's fun when it's going good, but
everything is always fun when it's going good, right?
You know,
that's
the
life.
party time,
when the stock market's good, everybody's a stock expert. When crypto markets are on fire, everyone's in crypto and buying crypto, and they're experts. And like the mail guy has tips that he's going to give you to make money in crypto.
That's where he knows a peak.
And when things aren't, no one wants to talk about it, right? And so I think it's also learning that like life has lots of ups and downs, and things are never going to be consistent. And maybe for certain people, like they get to feel that consistency more than others for whatever reason, because of just the way that things work out, right? But the reality is those that are successful are those that continue to work hard and persevere through good and bad, and understand that like things that there are peaks and valleys, right?
For sure.
And just push through it.
And I think that's very important for someone, especially someone that's had success early. I've read somewhere, or someone was saying like, anyone can make money in a good economy, right, or a good market or whatever. But show me the person that makes money when shit's going the other way. That's the fucking person I want to do business with, right?
I mean, I didn't have success early. I had to work hard for success. You know, I thought I was going to have early success, and then when I started building the lead gen business, in 2008 hit, man, that was rough. And I mean, again, you and I are similar in age. A lot of young people don't know how bad that crash in 2008 was.
That was no joke.
Bad, man. Yeah. Like it was bad. People were just losing jobs, losing their homes. Like things were really bad. And, I had made some money, and that was like my first time actually making some real money up to that point. And I was really nervous, and I lost a lot of money, right? I had bought some real estate, and I was like panicking. How do I hold on to this real estate right now? What am I going to do? The sky is falling.
Yeah.
And, fortunately, again, because of our ability and being in this industry, there was ways to pivot that were very similar to what I had already been doing. Debt settlement and loan modification leads were not much different than generating mortgage and insurance leads.
100%, yeah.
Right? Very same skill set and criteria.
Same audience.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
I think we've got some food here.
Oh, nice. Here we go.
Oh boy, look at that. Look how these guys make pizza, man.
This looks good, man.
I mean, look,
Yeah.
as you know, I'm a pizza lover, and I look at myself and I like all kinds of pizza, and I do have a favorite, right? I'm a square pie. I'd say that's probably my favorite, and I like a Neapolitan here and there, but from a nice thin crunchy pie,
Yeah.
this is beautiful. And I guess if Dave Portnoy were here, he'd say it. It's got a little bit of flop.
Yeah.
But to me, the flop adds a little bit of character, and it's really like about the back end of the pizza. Like, how does the crust stand up? Right? Because if you've got that flop in the front, you've got a nice amount of cheese on the front end of that pizza.
That's true. I never thought about it that way. See, real pizza aficionado right here.
So let's
go.
dig in.
Good shit. I needed this. I might just crush this thing, man.
I think you should crush it.
I'm gonna crush this thing. I had some bullshit. I had some bullshit pizza in Florida yesterday, man.
There's a couple good places in Florida that I've now found. I think I was telling you about Old Greg's. Have you been there? Old Greg's is good.
There's a Detroit place I like too. Square something.
Square City?
Yeah.
Square Pie City. So I went to Square Pie City with actually another OG from our industry. He took me there one day. That was pretty solid.
Yeah, I like that place.
And then I found Old Greg's, which also makes like a Detroit style pizza. And I have to say, it's better.
I gotta try
Old
that.
Greg's is really good. I was pretty impressed with that.
So you don't fold your pizza, or do you sometimes?
I don't
Depends.
typically fold this kind of pizza. Well, it sort of speaks for itself.
God.
If it's a little, floppy or lighter, I will. But this is actually sitting pretty nice.
This is nice, man. You know what? I like thin pizza. So I want to thank you, man, because you give me some really good recommendations, man, for spots, pizza spots that I've gone to with my family and stuff. I mean, you gave me a place in Garwood, Nola's, that vodka pie's out of control, man. I mean, so that's good. This goes to show you guys stick around the experts. The people don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
It's funny, man. You were an athlete, right?
Yeah.
So my whole life, I'm an athlete, right? I'm in my mid 40s now. Everyone always says like, "Oh, you look pretty young. What do you do?" And most of it's like I've eaten healthy my whole entire life.
Yeah.
And I think when I got to a certain point in life, I was like, you know what? I've eaten so healthy all my life. I just want to enjoy myself.
Yeah.
And so I originally was thinking that what I wanted to do was like go out and try different steakhouses. That was my plan, like to be like the meat guy.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was going to all these steakhouses, and then I realized like there just isn't a lot of great steakhouses.
Yeah.
Like there's a very small amount of good steakhouses, and the rest of them are awful. Right. Whereas with pizza, especially living in the New York, New Jersey area, there's so many good places you can go and so many different types of pizzas you can try that it made more sense to me. And so I didn't want to necessarily copy like the Dave Portnoy style, but I understand why people do it now because, again, like everyone has a different palate, and you can try this, you can do a square pie, you can do a Neapolitan, you can have toppings on it. There's so many different styles.
We were in Jersey City at Raza, which I think at one point got rated one of the top pizzerias in America, right? I don't know, what did Portnoy give it? You remember?
So Portnoy gave Raza an 8.3.
Okay.
I think, or maybe an 8.1. Raza today is considered the second best pizzeria in the US, and I think number 20 in the world.
Wow.
Right, and probably moving up because now they just did some big thing. So my guess is they're moving up. I found them when they first opened in 2012. So I was like one of their original.
Damn, I didn't know they were I didn't find out about them like 2018, 2019.
It was a little tiny place. So when we went, you see how they.
No, they expanded it. Yeah.
So he's been there since 2012. He also owned a place in Maplewood, New Jersey called Arturo's, which he opened with a partner. They split, and so now Arturo's is Artie's. They make a similar type pizza. They have like very similar types of like little appies on the menu, but not as good. It's not as good as Raza. Raza's probably one of the best places I've ever been. And maybe I'm a little biased because I've been going there for a long time, but that is not a place that you give an 8.1 or an 8.3. Like Raza is kind of a special place.
Yeah, that was one of definitely top 10, if not top 5 I had in my life. I tell you something interesting because, I'm used to like the regular pies. I don't like what's called gimmicky pies. I'll never eat like a pineapple, like fuck that shit. But
Yeah, no.
so anyway, with that being said, we had something there that you recommended, and I recognized the bartender there from back in the day. He's, yo, what's up, Dave? Blah, 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 right? And he's like, you gotta have one word of advice, cornhole pizza. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm not gonna eat corn on my pizza. Are you kidding me? But you said it, I'm like, all right, fuck it, let's do this cornhole pizza. Dude, that shit was amazing. That was probably top 5 I've ever had.
That was a great
I think
vibe.
it's seasonal though, right? They only make it during the summer or something?
They make it during the summer, and then in the winter they make a potato pie.
I gotta try that too. Listen,
Which is also really good.
Whatever the hell whatever their special shit, I'm gonna do their special shit. But that sweet corn, I mean, that cornhole pie was amazing. But normally I would not, I'm not eating that shit. That's some gimmicky shit. That was amazing, man. But that was, yeah. Oh, you're gonna fuck with me? No, I'm about to finish it. No, I'm gonna eat this, man. Look, especially I like it when it's burnt, man. You like burnt crust or no?
I love burnt crust.
Yeah, burnt crust is a shit. That's why I like the Detroit. The Detroit tend to be burnt.
They
like
burn
really
the shit out of their pizza, yeah. I do like a burnt pie, which I think when you talk to a lot of people now and they look at like burnt pies that don't know, they're like, oh, it looks gross. And it's like, oh, you have no idea what you're missing.
Dude,
it's fantastic.
That gives us that oomph, that extra like. We're funny because I go to a pizza spot, like wherever I'm in New York, I'll send you pictures, man. It's like that's our porn, man. Pizza porn.
I know.
Here's look at this pizza. Da 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 da. And we ask you how you like it. You know, it's so funny. But I come back to Jersey. I'll ask, like, Jordan, is this what I'm in Central Jersey? What do you recommend? He tells me where to go, and like it's always spot on. There's no bullshit. Good stuff. I feel bad for that pizza.
The pizza's dead.
It's like a girl that gets set up at the altar.
We got a nice square pie here.
Here we go. Yeah,
There you go. Thanks, bro.
Nice looking.
Nice. Yeah. See, like nice charring on this sucker, right? I mean, look. So they make a square pie here. This is not like the square pie you would get at like a Nola's, right?
Yeah.
It's different. It's also not like a Detroit style square pie. This is just their variation of a square pie. It's even very different than like a Sicilian because it's like
unique.
thin.
Yep.
But it obviously has a very nice texture and taste to it. So let's go.
Let's
try this.
Cheers to this thing.
Cheers it up.
Bro.
Yeah. Cheers it up.
Let's go.
Hot.
It's hot. That's nice though. Bro, good pizza is like fucking, I don't know what, man. This is proof there's a God,
I mean, this thing,
right?
like,
This is proof there's a God. You eat some shit like this is like,
it's not super heavy for
Thank
a
you,
square
bro.
pizza, right? It's very like non-traditional.
Yeah.
Like if you look at it, it's like a skinny square pie,
yeah,
but it's really nice.
it is nice.
And I love the texturing of it on top.
I like the way it looks.
Extra cheese, a little extra sauce. They char it. Even the back end, you know, you like the burnt. It's a little more charred in the
Yeah.
back, which is nice. At least this one is.
It's a work of art.
Very nice undercarriage on it. This is solid, man.
Yep.
I mean, they deserve the rating they got.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. It's tough, man. Like, obviously I live in Jersey, right? So I'm probably a little biased because people always ask me, oh, I'm coming to the area. Where should I go for pizza? And especially someone that's like really into it, they're like, should I go to New York, New Jersey, Connecticut?
Yeah.
And it's so hard because obviously all 3 states have such amazing pizza and very different styles of pizza, right? And again, like thinking about what I was mentioning earlier, like there's so many people that don't realize that.
100%.
Like not all pizza is created equal.
Yeah.
There's a different experience. It really all depends on what you're in the mood for at that particular moment.
Absolutely.
I was going to take you somewhere else tonight, which was actually a pretty unique place in the sense that it's very Neapolitan style, which is a totally different type of pizza than this. But we can try that next time. We can
Yeah, we'll do it next time.
Yeah.
I got a buddy in Connecticut too. I want to get on the show, and that New Haven pizza is pretty good. That's one of my favorite. That's very thin. I mean, they cut it a certain way, kind of like Di Lorenzo's, right? They cut it like I don't even know what kind of cut that is. Yeah,
Crisscross type
yeah,
cut.
dude.
And they also make those pies. I mean, you mentioned like a gimmicky pie, but they make like the clam
the
pizza.
clam one. That clam was
clam
good,
pizza's
yeah.
good, man.
That clam
It's
pizza
really
is
good.
really good. Yeah, the white sauce. Yeah, it's awesome.
So the pizzeria that's famous where you and I grew up is Santillo's.
Mm-hmm.
And that burned down, was that like a month ago?
Yeah,
So he had a fire there.
I was sad when that happened. Like for real.
And he's been there for about 80 years.
Yeah.
So he's like an OG pizza guy. For me, he's one of my favorite pizzas. Again,
Mine
maybe
too.
a little biased because I grew up on his pizza, but it's fantastic. So the really cool thing that happened was, obviously Dave Portnoy is helping him with some, like, rebuild it, right? Which is very cool. So I totally respect that. But I think also what Caniglio's did, which is cool, is on Sundays, they have him come in and basically they call it Santillo Sundays now, and he comes in and makes pizza in their shop.
That's so awesome.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and, you know, that goes back to that reminds us of stuff in our industry, because you would think they're like their competitors, right? Because Santillo's and Elizabeth, and they're far away, but still, they're two of the top-rated pizzerias in New Jersey.
They are, yeah, they're competing.
But the fact that they will let him, during his hard time, you know, go to Morristown and do it. That's just, and I feel like in our industry that happens a lot, where you might have a competitor. I might have a guy doing solar in my industry, I mean, in my vertical, but we'll do business together. We'll find out, okay, are you doing well? Maybe they're sucking in a certain state. Maybe they can't make it work in New Jersey, but I can. So then I'll sell them leads in New Jersey, or maybe I'm not hitting caps in Arizona. And that's the beauty of good. That's real partnerships.
That's the way good business should be done.
That's how it should be. Yeah, yeah.
And I think some friendly competition is healthy for everyone because it motivates us all and pushes us to do better. It's when there's unhealthy competition and someone wants to just try to own the whole market.
Yeah.
And the reality is, like, the market is big enough for everyone to play in fairly. There's no reason to try to monopolize it. Like, it's not
100%.
going to work anyway.
Yeah.
But there's no reason even to have that approach.
Yeah.
Right? You're better off just creating good strategic partnerships and being able to work together. And you never know, like, again, thinking of e-com and then moving into lead gen, like, e-com was where we played, but I saw that the market was slowing down a little bit, and I was like, we need to pivot out.
Yeah.
And because I had good connections within the lead gen world, I was able to get pretty good offers up and running fairly quickly. Right? And I had some help from my friends. There's a few guys that, like, really helped me out getting back in, because even though it hasn't changed much, it had changed. Yeah. Right? And so they gave me a push. They gave me a recommendation because they knew that, like, we were a good company to do business with, and that I was, you know, very, very reputable person to be working with. And so they were like, yeah, here, go call these 3 people, get stuff set up with them immediately. And all of those relationships have panned out, and I'm still working with all those people today, which is amazing.
Yeah. And I think that's part of doing the right thing at all times, right? Even if it's going to cost you money, do the right thing, because it's a relationship business at the end of the day. We start talking about generating leads and trying to do it properly and what verticals, but at the end of the day, it's a relationship. You're your brand, you know, is what it comes down to. So if you fuck one person over, everyone's going to know, and then they're not going to want. They're going to be hesitant to do business. They're not going to, you know, open the doors for you. But because you've done the right thing and you've done it so long, but like, okay, listen, whatever you need, they're going to help you collapse timeframes, and that's worth a lot of money at the end of the day. You can't quantify it, but it's worth a shitload.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, are you a giver or are you a taker? Right? And there has to be, like, a fine line between the two. You can't always give, right? But obviously you can't just take and expect then people to do things for you, right? So it's finding that balance. And that balance is really hard to find. And I think as you're, you know, when you're young and coming up in business, it's really challenging because you just don't know better.
Yeah.
Once you get to a certain level of success, but also just time spent within a specific industry or just doing business in general, you realize the importance of that. And you realize that you can balance the two out and create great relationships, impactful relationships with people, and that the world will give it back to you in one way or the other.
Yeah,
and I've certainly found that over times, especially during challenging times. Like, you find that people are more willing to go out of their way to do things for you because they've been there and you've done something for them in one way or the other.
Yeah,
100%. That's a pretty amazing thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
All words of wisdom, man. That's what it comes down to.
So what do we got coming here next? Oh, so this is actually my favorite. Now I see that I've got a beautiful pepperoni, and, like, this one stands up beautifully, right? This is just a beautiful piece of pizza. This is from this place. This is my favorite slice of pizza. Now I see you don't have any pepperoni on yours.
Yeah.
What's the story with that?
I haven't eaten, well, the only meat I have is fish. I guess I'm a pescatarian.
Okay.
I've been this way since 2007, I believe. Saw Tony Robbins one day, and I'm all about energy, right? And he was like, you got to eat good. You want to have good energy. You can't just, he was like, I think he was vegan at the time. I think he's changed a few times, but I stuck with it. And listen, I'm got nothing against, I'm not like crazy, what do you call, hardcore with it. I mean, I think everything in moderation is fine, but yeah.
I have to say, though, I'm surprised because you look like the type of guy that would be like, give me some meat.
Yeah, I go pretty hard in many aspects of life. Yeah, but it's done me pretty well,
so
man.
Good for you.
Yeah, I get my blood worked every 3 months. I got a doctor in Miami who's been great for me, man, looking at my levels and everything in terms of nothing to do with eating meat, but in terms of, like, high performance. I always want to be in a good mental state, you know, so I'm on a bunch of peptides. I'm on good vitamins, minerals, man. I don't even drink plastic water, man. I drink bottled water. So to me, it's like, the more energy I have, the more. That's why I travel like crazy. I couldn't travel the way I do.
Right.
Trying to take care of my own. So the funny thing, though, is, like, the pizza's my freaking weak spot. You know, and I've been trying to eat less pizza. So I used to eat like a whole pie. Now I have maybe, today we'll go a little over. I have like 2 slices sitting. Today
Two's
they
good.
went 3
Two,
or
3 is
4.
good.
Today we'll do 3 or 4. Fuck it. I haven't seen you in a while. We're in Jersey, right?
Hell yeah.
All right, so salute,
this is the
another one.
pepperoni. Sorry you're not eating this pepperoni.
It's all good.
I also didn't eat meat for many years, and then found my way back to it about 18 months ago, and no regrets so far.
Yeah, all good.
This is a beautiful piece of pizza right here.
I should have waited for you, man. Yeah, I couldn't I'm crushing it.
And it's interesting because a lot of people do the, the pepperoni cups these days.
Yeah.
And they're still doing like the classic flat pepperoni.
Yeah.
But man,
I never thought about it.
delicious.
Yeah, it's pepperoni cups. I saw that for the first time, I think, in Prince Street in New York.
Yeah.
Right? I never thought about that term.
Yeah, Prince Street was doing the square pie with the little pepperoni cups, and they're delicious.
Yeah.
But I also like, these make me think of like my childhood.
Me too. It's funny you said, because we talked about Santillo's. That's where my dad, we grew up in Elizabeth, in Port Elizabeth. So we'd always order Santillo's. And back in the day, pepperoni was my shit. Like, always get pepperoni. So seeing that and hearing you talk about that made me think about the pepperoni.
I just have to comment on that real
Yeah.
quick. So you just mentioned something. You're a successful business guy. How many people work for your company now?
Including the call center, a little mid-60s, probably 65, 66.
We've got 66 people working for you.
Yeah.
For those that don't know that are listening, back in the 80s and 90s, the Port of Elizabeth was gangster as fuck.
I got robbed there, man.
Like gangster as fuck.
It was, yeah.
Like you grew up in a place where most people have no hopes or aspirations of doing anything in life because it's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I also grew up in Elizabeth, but not in that part of Elizabeth. And that is a really rough area of Elizabeth.
Yeah.
And it's nice because today they've cleaned it up and
way better.
it's significantly better than it was.
Yeah.
But back in those days, that was a really rough place to be.
Not only that, so my parents were divorced, right? So I would see my dad, I don't know if I saw him every week and every other week, and I don't remember, but I would go there, and I was living in Newark at the time. Newark was the most dangerous city in America.
Yeah,
so I saw people
early 90s.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story.
Gunshots all the time.
I'll tell you a funny story. So 1989, I think we got our first color TV, man. My mom came from Venezuela, making minimum wage, had worked 2 jobs, put food on the table. We got some nice TV. Lethal Weapon. Watching Lethal Weapon on that Danny Glover and what's the other guy? Mel Gibson, right?
Mel Gibson, come on, man.
Bro, I hear it, boom, boom. I thought it was a TV. I'm like, man, this TV's got some good sound effects, right? And then like 5 minutes later, you see like sirens, and you hear this shit. I go outside. I didn't see the body, but there was a guy wrapped up in chalk with a white blanket over him.
Wow.
I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, this shit is real, right? So, every other week, some shit like that will go down over there. But yeah, man, I forget about that. I go from Newark, then I go to Elizabeth, which wasn't much better.
Right.
But I think that gives us street smarts, man, and that helps navigate the business world.
So having grown up that way, again, tough to grow up like that.
Yeah.
So you went to college, right?
Yeah, NYU, business school.
So how did you get yourself into, how did you get through high school into NYU, which is obviously one of the most prestigious universities in the country?
I'll tell you a great story, and I got to thank my aunt for this. My Aunt Gladys was the first one in my family that went to college, from my Venezuelan side that went to college. We're the big Venezuelan family. She was probably the second one that came to America in the 70s, and my mom came, my aunt came. So she went to school for medical stuff over there in Venezuela, right? But when she came to America, she didn't matter. So she had to be a waitress. She had to learn, start from the bottom and then work herself up. So she became actually a scientist. I would see her bust her ass. And I always saw my mom bust her ass working, menial wages, but she always bust her ass. So I learned my work ethic from my mom, from my aunt. But my aunt worked up the corporate ladder, and she wanted to become a scientist at Novartis, working on cancer drugs.
Oh, wow.
Right? So she's...
Crazy.
Yeah, so
Also
I learned
from Venezuela.
She's from Venezuela, Caracas.
And then Elizabeth, transplanted into Elizabeth,
she lived in Amora, believe it or not.
Wow, okay.
Amora.
Yeah, so that's right.
Yeah.
That's where I grew up. Yeah.
Then she moved, and I was telling Chance earlier, she got married and moved to Morristown, New Jersey, where Coniglios is at. And when I went to Morristown to see her, I thought this was the richest place in America, because Elizabeth, you don't got fucking houses like that. You don't got houses like that in Newark, right? But I learned later on, it's like upper middle class, right? Rich is like Alpine, New Jersey. We've seen rich areas now, right? But so I went there, and so what happened was she told my mom, listen, Dave is moving around too much. I almost joined a gang. I actually joined. I started a gang with my buddies in 6th grade in Newark. We were doing dumb shit. It wasn't anything crazy. We moved, thank God, a week later.
Where in Newark did you grow up?
It was mainly Ironbound. We had some violent shit going. We'd always be in this dumb area. Dumb shit would happen. My mom always got raped. Nothing happened, thank God. But like she fought the guy back. But like we lived in bad areas in Newark, man. Anyway, with that being said, my aunt was like, Dave is moving around too much. I always got good grades because like the colleges want to see consistency, right? So she'll like, have Dave move with me to Morristown for high school. That'd help him get into a good college. That was tough for my mom to do, but we did it. And that was the best decision we made because I went there, I ran track. We had a good track team. We're all county.
And you ran track in college, right?
Yeah, ran track in college, went to NYU. And then it wasn't the same. High school was like, I was a captain of my team. But with all that being said, is that me having that consistency helped a lot. I was doing track. I wasn't getting myself in trouble. I got good grades, good SATs, and I got it. I always wanted to go to school in New York, got into NYU Business School, and boom, that's what happened. Studied marketing, man. But that's how that all happened. But that was a result of me getting out of that environment, man. If I didn't get out of that environment, who knows what the hell would happen.
So they pulled you out of there like
eighth grade. Eighth grade. Well, I finished eighth grade. I went to Harrison in eighth grade.
Okay.
I was supposed to go to Newark East Side. Then I went to Harrison. I was going to stay in Harrison, which was a little bit better, but still, they were trying to recruit me for a gang in eighth grade as well. So, weird, fucked up shit. But good thing is I left that area, got out of that neighborhood, and boom, went to a decent neighborhood.
So, thinking about like fast forwarding to the future now, right? Yeah. Like someone believed in you.
Yeah.
And gave you that opportunity. Right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about that, like believing in people, giving them opportunities.
Yeah.
Looking at, business in a certain way, looking at our industry even in a certain way.
Yeah.
Right? Because like life, our industry, I feel like is very parallel.
It is.
Like there's good people, but there's also a lot of people that I think in this industry that don't want you to succeed.
Yep.
But if you can find those good ones, obviously they create big opportunities for you in all different aspects of this industry.
100%.
That clearly happened to you.
Yeah. A lot of people gave me chances along the way.
And if you didn't have that chance, like who knows where you would have been today if you would have started this company and been the success story that you are. It's crazy.
And that's one thing I want to do with the show is, because I'm sure there are going to be people listening that they see like the flashiness in our industry, right? Which, it draws you in, but that's not really what it's all about. It's about creating a lifestyle to me on your own terms, going where you want, when you want to go, enjoying, having memories. I met your family, beautiful family in Florida, right?
Yeah, thanks,
and I think you were having a great time going to the beach. You told me that. So I try to do the same with my family. And that to me is what it comes down to at the end of the day. And that's a beautiful industry that you can make a lot of money. You could also lose a lot of damn money. But if you follow the principles you're talking about and you tag along with the right people, good shit will happen.
There's no set hours, right? Yeah. So it's not like a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, 9 to 6 type of industry, right? No matter what part of the industry you're in. I guess if you're maybe on the creative side or ops or something like that, but even that, I feel like this industry is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is, right? Yeah. There's no vacations, there's no real downtime, and that's kind of the sacrifice.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, the payoff is that you can make a lot of money, and you can make significant amounts of money if you're really good at what you can do. You can have the flexibility that you want to travel around, right? Because the reality of the industry, whether you're on the marketing side, the affiliate side, or the advertiser side, is the industry has always been set as one that's like supported the digital nomad lifestyle. And so you meet so many people around the world, and those people, especially the ones that like are a little younger or don't have families, they're constantly moving around. The benefit is that, and I'm sure you've found this, is like you could call someone at any time, anywhere in the world and say like, hey, I'm coming in. And they're like, cool, can't wait to see you. And they'll take you out to dinner and you'll have like an amazing time just hanging out with them.
Absolutely.
Until you move on to the next location.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And I have friends that are like in finance or in insurance and they make good money, but they don't go anywhere. They're like vacation is like the Jersey Shore or like Florida, right? They're not like, oh, I went to Dubai this year. I went to Bangkok. I went here. I went there. They have the same little vacation spots and the same kind of circle of people. Whereas for us, we get to meet all kinds of super interesting people.
Yeah, and you can't grow that way. You can't grow if you're staying up. You have to. Every time I travel, I like, not only do I make a connection that really moves the needle or make some new friendship, but you grow as a person. It's like your brain grows because you see, like going to Dubai is fucking crazy. You look at these tall buildings, like what the hell, like, you know.
I guess especially for someone coming from down Fort Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
It's pretty amazing. Like if you look back on where you started to where you are, you're like, wow. Crazy.
And
like,
you
how
too.
am I actually here?
We grew up in the same area pretty much, so it is what it is, and it's great. And that's one thing I want to do with the show is that show people that these are people that are making shit happen. This is how they made it happen. And maybe they get a little bit of insight out of it that can help them along the way.
It's not easy. Like it's definitely not easy, right? It's a lot of work. I mean, we put a lot of work into building our businesses and building our teams and, having great people that we work with. I've been lucky that, I've had a great partner and co-founder, right? And he sort of, when I met him, and I'd done quite a bit of traveling, but he was living overseas. So he really opened my eyes up to like what life would be like if you're moving around and traveling a lot.
Yeah.
And again, on one hand, you sort of miss some of the family things. So you have to figure out at some point how to incorporate your family into this, or at some point you just may not have a family.
Yeah.
If you're never around.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, the benefit again is like, I feel like I know someone in probably every country in the world that if I just message them on Skype or text message them and said, hey, I'm going to be in town in a week, they would be happy to meet with me, happy to take me out for a dinner and like share an experience with me together. And we could potentially do some business together, which is like the bonus of it all.
That is, yeah. That's great. And I think it's also by being authentic, right? If you're authentic, you're not looking for something from, because you're trying to get something from them. No one wants to be around people like that, right? So we're very similar in that way. I think that we're looking to give, provide value, and that opens up doors at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Right?
Sure. What's this one? Oh, God. What's this guy?
That's interesting.
This is man, I was just handed a square, I'm guessing this is pepper and sausage, probably some spicy pepper on here, if I had to guess, right? You got the green and the red pepper on here. Got some sausage. This looks pretty good. Huh?
It looks like you got the works.
Not for you.
Yeah.
Not for you. Are you jealous? Are you jealous?
No, it looks like the works. That's what it looks like. He's got a smorgasbord of everything.
One day I'm gonna like take you out and throw a couple drinks into you and then be like, hey, have this pizza. I swear there's no meat on it.
I'm gonna give you a vegan one day. That's how I'm gonna get you back. Vegan
I'll
sausage.
try this one. Yeah. Now I'm gonna have to go home and like do an extra workout since I
All good. It's gonna be snowing tomorrow. You do a lot of shoveling.
Yeah, that's true.
You'll make it up.
I will be for sure.
Cheers, man.
Cheers on that. Let me ask you a question.
Well,
you know, speaking of like eating pizza and working out, and you mentioned, you know, taking peptides and doing other things to keep yourself young. So I mean, you look great for your age. You have a family. You're traveling a lot.
Yep.
What are some other things that you do to just keep yourself functioning at such a high level? Because I feel like I have pretty good energy, but you are like massively high energy. How?
I think, diet is one thing for sure. Meditation helps. Ideally, I'll go weeks where I meditate every day and it helps center my mind to calm down because my mind's always racing. I live on the beach over there in Hallandale Beach, and I sprint pretty often. Sprinting is amazing. Like it makes you feel young again.
So does it like give you like that, almost like that dopamine shot that you need to like function at a high level?
Yeah, listen. I almost feel like I'm a dopamine junkie, man. I think anyone in business, you kind of like, we're addicted to this shit, right? It's better than being addicted to a drug or gambling or whatever, right? So the bottom line is that when you sprint, it helps release growth hormone. That's been shown. I'm on the beach. It's harder to sprint on the beach because you're sinking in the sand, right? It just makes you feel good. I breathe in that air, right? It's way different than when I grew up. Listen, I miss Jersey. I miss New York, and I come to New York twice. New Jersey twice a month.
You're here all the time.
Yeah, I get my fix, right? I get my pizza, whatever. But really, it's having that balance, man. It's just I think my wife eats like I eat. Same exact. She probably eats better than I do, honestly. She eats a lot more greens than I do. I try to incorporate greens as much as I can. But
now, is your wife in the industry?
No,
does she help you?
She's not, but she helped me start the business. She helped me back in 2016 start Solar Direct Marketing. She was kind of like my right-hand person. She'd go with me to shows. She went to Lead Gen World, see me speak over there. I spoke on stage there, when was it, a month ago. And it's funny how many people remember her from back in the day. And people know her from my Instagram stories. Like, oh, so nice to meet you. It's like, wait, who is that person? I saw you on Instagram and whatever. But it's I like bringing her to shows with me because, man, she's awesome. A bunch of guys we're in Colombia. My wife's from Medellin. A bunch of guys from industry came to Medellin last week. We went out to dinner with them, went out to the club with them. They freaking loved her. She's a lot like me, but she's a lot more disciplined in a lot of. I'm disciplined in a lot of ways, but she's a lot more. I don't know.
Is she like also super high energy though?
Not as much as I am. I'm on another level, I think. But but she helps balance me, man. Is what it is, and I think that helps at the end of the day, right? So to answer your question, is really I take care of what I put in my body, what I ingest. I'm kind of a hypocrite when it comes to the shows or the drinking. I'll go a little harder, but what I've been doing recently, because I put all this money into peptides, is that if I drink, I'll have vodka and water. Vodka, water, lemon. That way I'm not killing myself with those carbs, right? So I've been a little bit more mindful of that. But yeah, I think what I eat, and I was with my mom in Colombia. My mom's from Venezuela. Talked about her work ethic. She's 7 years old. She's still working. She likes to work. She's high energy. I realize how much I'm like her. So I think a lot of it is hereditary too. I get the energy from her, but I'm also trying to optimize myself with the peptides, with eating a certain certain way and taking care of myself, you know?
Nice.
Yeah, that's what it comes
good.
down to.
That's
Like
smart.
mineral water, like I was drinking the mineral water from like, it's got minerals in it, man.
I bought this
Liquid Death.
Liquid Death iced tea.
Yeah.
It's like the first time I've ever had it. I don't know. I don't really know what's so special about it, but it does come kind of in.
They're killing it, by the way.
And I guess like I was thinking of like when I looked at it first, I was like, oh, it looks like Chinese New Year. So-
Yeah. That's probably why they lunar, lunar, whatever it is. That's crazy.
But it's actually not that good. So I wouldn't say that I would go out of my way to drink it.
Marketing, man.
It's great marketing.
Great marketing.
And as a marketer, I can appreciate the marketing.
Yeah.
But it's not that good.
What do you think the margins are on that?
I have no idea, man.
80%?
It's
with marketing
heavy.
costs.
It's probably pretty. Look, it's heavy.
Yeah.
So shipping, it's got to cost a lot of money. The cans are pretty nice. I don't actually know much about their ingredients, but if I had a guess, yeah, I mean, from a gross margin perspective, they're 50% plus.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're quite as high as 80%.
Yeah,
but it's
that
definitely
makes sense.
But it's definitely like a 50% plus margin business, gross wise.
Yeah.
Their biggest expense is storage and shipping.
Yeah.
Because these things are heavy.
Yeah. No, man, that's
And,
something.
and look, it's also a very competitive space. Like beverages in general is super
hard to crack.
competitive, right? And so they did a really good job of like figuring out how to capture a large segment of the market in a very competitive space.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, look, it's what you do all the time. It's what I do.
Yeah.
It's what we figure out.
Got to differentiate ourselves in some capacity, right? Whatever
What do you see as like so for someone that has come back into lead gen and spent like the last year doing lead gen,
Yeah.
what do you sort of see as like the next 12 to 24 months? I know there's some FCC changes that are coming up. I know that like there's been more regulation coming around some of the bigger verticals that guys have been running in Medicare and ACA.
Yeah.
What do you think the future holds for us?
I think it's the cream's rising to the top as we speak. A lot of guys are doing some like, I don't know what you want to call it, shady or like black hat kind of stuff. There's a lot more regulation going on, right? And I think there's a shift definitely towards pay-per-call. It's a good and bad thing in the sense, what happens is the guys that are running the shady angles, they're the ones that fuck it up for everybody else, right? They make the cost per lead more competitive or whatever. But we're talking offline here about transfers. With this FCC ruling, age data pretty much goes out the window, right? There's no place for age data. It's going to be illegal to call age data. But I think there's a way to do transfers off an inbound and to make it more highly vetted, right? So you're getting rid of the garbage that people don't qualify. So I think that pay-per-call, people have to get really creative. They're going to have to get creative, and what worked yesterday is not going to work today. So I think pay-per-call and then finding new verticals, tapping into stuff that other people aren't doing.
Right.
I know there's HVAC is a big, massive vertical, but it's very kind of like, it's kind of like solar and they zipped it.
HVAC is HVAC, right?
Yeah, HVAC.
So basically falls into the home improvement bucket, right?
So I think you're going to have to figure out ways to kind of hit niches that people aren't in. I mean, everyone's in ACA, everyone's in Medicare, everyone's in debt. Makes it harder. You have to have some amazing media buyers, right? And fucking people are ripping ads all day long. It's the issue. So it's hard to stay ahead of that. So you have to go into a different ocean. I mean, I go to Lead Gen World, Affiliate Summit, you go to these shows, everyone's talking about the same five verticals.
Right, yeah.
Everyone's trying to get crumbs of this piece of meat, right? You got to get a different piece of meat. Back in 2016, solar, no one was really in solar. I was one of the first guys that got into solar. I had a little bit of a competitive advantage. I weathered the storm.
It's always a first mover advantage is nice. Yeah.
So I think it's out there. That's one reason why I travel so much. I put my ears to the ground. Like, what's the next thing? Where's money gravitating towards?
Now you're going out to Affiliate World in Dubai.
Yes.
And you're going to be speaking there on some of the changes that are coming up in the space and sort of where you believe things are going.
Correct. Yeah. Nice. I'm going to talk about how you could pivot. Talk a lot about pay-per-call.
I'm planning to be there as well.
Awesome. Yeah.
I'd love to hear you speak. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think a lot of guys don't understand the ramifications of these rulings. People just run ads and they don't realize they might be doing something illegal, and then they think they're not going to get caught because they might be in, I don't know, somewhere overseas and some country you can't even pronounce. But they don't realize that. Yeah, they don't realize that. Guess what? If your buyer gets popped, they're not going to pay you. You might have a few $100,000 on the street you're never going to get back, right? So I think I want to educate them as to that, as to like, listen. You might think this is not going to affect you, but it will affect you. You can't run away from these sort of things.
It's interesting. I mean, having done e-commerce and then moved a little bit into lead gen because I felt like that's where a lot of the activity started to move.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen more people now, I guess because of some of the FCC stuff, but also probably because of the overall market saturation, come back to us and say like, hey, I want to get back into e-commerce again.
Yeah.
Or, what do you guys have going on right now? Guys that have that I worked with years ago that moved into lead gen for a while and now they're frustrated or their caps or their budget is shrinking. And so they've come back and asked us. And you mentioned a lot with calls, and I think there's, for inbound calls, I think inbound calls probably has a place in both the lead gen world, but also in transactional based marketing as well with e-commerce and, potentially even some what I would classify as like nutraceuticals or beauty type products where you're leveraging that inbound call in a call center to make a sale like traditional TV.
Yeah. So Jordan, I'm glad you mentioned about tying e-com to a paper call, because that to me is something, I think they call it the blue ocean, right? No one's really doing that. And obviously people are going to try it and they're probably going to lose some money doing it, but the one that cracks it is the one that's going to come out ahead. So I think that's big. And I've seen that shift. I've seen people go from e-com to lead gen back to keep going back and forth. But I think right now, because how lead gen's become so saturated, I think there will be a shift towards e-com, which would be good for you guys, right? Because then you guys could benefit.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and then having partners like a Ringba, right? I mean, Ringba's platform is amazing. Like they've built a truly amazing platform. I've known, Adam I met more recently, but I've known Harrison for a very long time. Yeah. He was my affiliate manager, I think, back in 2009.
Yeah, he started in his early teens.
He was in high school. Yeah. He was in high school.
That's what I love about industry. You can be in high school making money, man. That's
hustling his
sick.
whole life.
Yeah.
And so they've built this platform, and they have a pretty amazing platform. The research that we've done and the systems we've been playing with, like Ringba's pretty cool.
Yeah, and they're on the cutting edge of things for sure. They spend time on making it better, and that's all that matters at the end of the day.
And you talk about people working together. Like I look at those two companies, right? Ringba and Retriever, and they're competitors, but yet there's groups where both of their sales team is in those groups, or even the founders are in those groups, actively posting and sort of giving direction to people to have success within calls. Yet they compete. They're at the same shows. I've seen them at the same parties and events. To me, that's the way you do it, right? It's like we're competitors, but we can also play within the same ecosystem because there is enough business for us out there.
Yeah, that's a good example of a rising tide lifts all boats, right? That's what happens there. And I'll tell you, Adam Young posted it yesterday. He's writing. I think he's done with his book. It's called The Paper Call Revolution. And look out for that. He's probably gonna drop some incredible insights.
Yeah, Adam's super smart.
Yeah. And Harrison too. I mean, I heard his story in the early teens getting into this game. And again, that's what I like about our industry. That if you got the hustle, the wherewithal, and you know how to spot patterns and recognize patterns, you can freaking do something amazing.
I called Harrison one time. I didn't want to say this, but now you brought him up again. I called him one time. And he answered the phone, and I was like, "Hey, man, I've got a problem with the offer I'm running or whatever it was." And he was like, "I can't talk to you right now. I'm in class." And I'm like, "Walk out of class." Walk out of class. Not realizing, right? And he's like, "No, dude, I'm in high school. I can't just walk out of class."
Wow.
And my jaw dropped. Yeah. I was like, "Oh, okay."
Well, you thought it was in college, right?
I was like, "Wait, what do you mean?" I was like, "High school?" He's like, "Yeah, dude, I'm in I think he was 10th grade." And I was like, holy shit.
That's amazing.
This dude is in 10th grade, just hustling. Look, some kids are playing sports or, studying or doing whatever. Most kids are not doing much of anything, right? In 10th grade, he's literally answering business calls in 10th grade.
Yeah.
Crazy. And so fast forward to today, you could see why they're having this level of success they are, right?
Absolutely.
It's very obvious.
I always say, Tony Robbins says success leaves clues. It's right there. Yeah. That's a perfect example. Grinding at high school. I mean, he was still committed to his school too.
He was in class. Yeah, it wasn't like he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna walk out." He was like, "Yeah, I'll call you back," and he did call me back.
A man of his word.
But he was in class.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I was like, man, and I'm already in my mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, I started late.
Yeah.
And I think having grown up very similar to you, and I didn't go to NYU, although I did go to college on a scholarship,
nice.
But for sports.
Yep.
I think back and I'm like, I wish I would have taken things a little serious.
Yeah.
I try not to live my life thinking about regrets.
Yeah.
But, if I could do it all again, I would have taken things a little more serious.
Yeah.
Now I did build, a pretty nice business on eBay, which was cool. but I didn't realize how easily it could be disrupted. And it was.
Yeah.
And that once that disruption happened, I'd have no business. And so, when I was working for that guy, like I didn't ask all of the right questions. And so it also taught me that like when you're in business and you're with people and you're meeting with people, like asking questions is like a big part of success, right? The more you understand something, and I don't think anyone minds answering questions, right? And sometimes the questions can feel very invasive, but there's nothing wrong with asking good questions. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that you don't understand something when you don't understand it, as opposed to just walking out of a meeting like, oh, that was a great meeting, and you really have no idea what the meeting was about because you didn't understand it, right? So asking those questions is critical.
I think that's, and you're right. You've done that. The first few times we met, you asked me a lot of questions about lead gen, right? 'Cause you knew I knew about lead gen, and I answered those questions. But because you had a good reputation, you've been doing this for a long time, right? And I thought you were already in lead gen. I didn't realize it was mainly e-com. But when you were asking me these questions, I was surprised because you're asking me these questions. I thought you know the answer, but then I realized, hey, you're getting into it. And I was more than happy to provide that value.
For sure.
Yeah.
And like, I think again, like having that experience, instead of saying like, I'm going to go to these things and pretend like I know everything because I've been around for a really long time, right? I'm like, I'm going to go and be super humble and ask questions because, well, I'm in a room full of really smart people. Shouldn't I spend the time here to learn as opposed to pretend as if I know everything?
Absolutely.
Right? So sometimes you have to step back from yourself and say like, yeah, even though I've had success, I'm not the smartest person. I'm not the most successful person. I don't have the biggest company. Like, I'm not going to know everything. And in some cases, I may know nothing about whatever is happening, but I can ask questions. And if I ask good questions, I'm going to learn something. And every time I go, or every time I go back after, as long as I go back and review my notes, I now become a little smarter.
I love it. All great words of wisdom.
And I think for, just to add to that, like for guys like us that grew up the way we did, and I feel like there's a lot of people in this industry that, share similar upbringings. For guys like us, right, who don't always have the greatest opportunity to learn when we're young because of how we grow up or where we grow up, like being in an industry around a lot of really smart people that are willing to share, and there's so many different events, and all you have to do is ask.
Yeah.
Such a powerful thing, man.
It is powerful. All you gotta do is show up in one of those shows, spend $500, $1,000, what it is, and you're around people that have done it. They made mistakes. They're learning from their mistakes. They're running these big companies. They're running fast. You can even on like YouTube, follow them, subscribe to them.
I see all these guys that come to the show now from like different countries, right? Like India, Pakistan, and they're so eager to be there and so happy to be there. And and this is not a knock on them, right? But if I go back like 15 years or so many people had like negative connotations of like, oh, am I going to buy, my leads from someone in India or Pakistan because all they're trying to do is like fraud me out, right? And that was the case with many of these groups, right? And that's not like, I'm not pointing out one group, but I'm just saying that's kind of the reality of our industry, right? And if I look at where it's evolved now, I meet all these guys that come in from all these different places and they ask good questions and they're really eager to learn. You wind up doing a lot of business with them. You find that they're some of your best business partners, right? And it's crazy because the whole mindset has shifted. Like everyone's now actually trying to learn something today, as opposed to like, how can they just pull a fast one and make a few bucks and then no one wants to work with them anymore, right? So you've got people that are really thinking about this, like, this is a serious industry. There's there's really long-term money here to be made as long as I do good business with people. And that's, I've seen that. I've definitely seen a lot of change in that. There's still some of those guys around that come in and that's everywhere, right? Not everywhere within our industry that like try to rip you off for a few bucks. But for the most part, like a lot of people are actually trying to do good business. And that's really cool.
I love it. All right, Jordan. So if you had to start all over again, right? Let's say, listen, God forbid something went on with the business. You had to start all over again from the beginning, man. What would you do? Or you're someone just getting into this industry that sees what we have going on. What would be your advice?
First is you should understand media. Whether you're buying the media or not, you should understand how it works and its capabilities. Second is understanding all the different platforms, right? Meta, TikTok, YouTube, or really Google, and then the suite of products under Google, and understanding those at a high level, right? That's where I'd start. Like if I were starting over again, that's where I'd start because those are the easiest things that you can do. and they're essentially free. I mean, obviously you have to be able to buy the media, but once you know how to acquire those customers, you can basically work with anyone you want to get yourself started. Right? Then from there, it's making that decision of which trajectory do you want to go down? What's going to be your path of success? Right? And that I can't speak to, right? For me, I didn't necessarily want to be the affiliate anymore or the media buyer because it wasn't something that came natural to me. Like I found over time that I was a very, very average media buyer, but I was better at actually running a company and building out teams. So that's the direction that I would go, right? I would understand the platforms, I would understand all the media, and this is if I'm starting fresh. If things just didn't work out and I had to start over again, well, I'd basically start over doing the same thing that I've done, just potentially optimizing it a little bit, right? I'd want to understand what went wrong, like, because obviously at that point the business failed. So why did the business fail? So I would do a whole analysis of that. So I would step back for a certain period of time. But my guess is that within a few months, I'd be right back in it and I'd have something that would be successful, right? I'd build out the blueprint for success for myself. Yeah. And if I look at this space, I enjoy the e-commerce side of it better than I do the lead gen side for a lot of different reasons, primarily because in e-commerce, I get to deal with most of the founders of the companies because they're smaller businesses. Whereas with lead gen, you sometimes will deal with the founders, but many times you're just dealing with people that work at the company. Yep. And for me, I like the personal relationship of dealing with someone who is the decision maker as opposed to just dealing with someone who has to go ask someone else who may have to ask someone else if we can potentially work together and then waiting. But that's just preference for me personally.
I love it. Great words of advice, words of wisdom right there. Last thing is a slice of marketing.
Slice of marketing. Yeah. So I mean, I think like a lot of us, right? And you inspired me. I've got my YouTube channel and podcast that'll be coming out soon. It's called Slice of Marketing. I've got the Instagram page up, although right now there's no activity on it. I think, as you know from following me on Instagram, I've been doing a lot of different pizza posting, and I started to pull together some content, and I'm hoping to have it out in the next month or so. And really that'll be all about sitting down, enjoying amazing pizza wherever it is in the world and talking marketing or really talking about anything, right? But I think the primary focus will be on marketing, specifically performance marketing, because that's the industry we're in.
I love it. I love it that you're going to do it international as well. And, I know your pizza. This is fucking phenomenal pizza. What would we rate the pizza today?
To me, so Portnoy has him an 8.9.
Yeah.
A little lower than 8.9. I give him an 8.6. This is a solid 8.6 to me. But, again, there's no 10s. There's very few 10s. There's very few 9.5s.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So if I look at like my pizza org, it's sitting at the upper level of pizza.
I love it. I agree with that rating. I would say 8.4 to 8.6, somewhere there, but excellent pizza. I got my pizza fix that I wasn't getting in Florida. So thank you for that, my man.
My brother.
Thanks to David, man, for making this happen, getting us back here. We did like a pre-Valentine's thing here. Some Jersey shit. But
yeah, well, I guess so. Valentine's Day is in what, like two days?
Yeah,
you gotta make sure you get flowers and chocolates for your wife, or when you're married a really long time.
You gotta make it special.
It's just another day. Well, to me, it's like
they support our lifestyle, man. That's just how we get.
I try to make every day special.
So one last thing, how can people find you? What's the best way to find you online?
I'm on Instagram. I am JRoll is my hashtag on Instagram. You can also find me on Skype at JRolband1.
Got it. Okay. So LFG fam, there was a lot of information there to pack in. I think we got to do this again. We do this somewhere over another pizza place somewhere in the country or the world or whatever. But listen to what he's got to say. There was so much information from scaling companies to media buying to which verticals go in, if you start all over again, all that stuff. So this was amazing. This is one of the top podcasts we've done so far. So I really appreciate you taking the time to make it out here. I feel like a lot of good information for our fan base here. And let's fucking go, man. Let's make it a good year.
Man. I love the name, by the way.
Appreciate it, man.
That is the epitome of who you are.
That's who I am. Fucking go, baby. All right, good stuff.